So this video is on form versus freedom. This is a distinction, somewhat artificial, come back to that, but a useful distinction we use on the Embodied Facilitator course. So sometimes this is equated with top down and bottom up. If you come across that term, not totally sure if they're equivalent, but I'll give you the rough idea. So form practices are ones where we're trying to do a specific shape. It might be a yoga asana or a karate kata, for example. We're trying to work with a specific form, and there's a discipline to that, there's a rigor to that, and there's risks and benefits. So benefits, we're learning discipline, we're stretching ourselves by going into things we might not otherwise go into, and we're checking if the form is broad, we're checking sort of different points on a map, like the 4 elements, for example, yeah, or the 26 EYP poses. They're forms. The other thing about forms is they show deviation. So we have a no pose, for example, in EYP. Some people do it that way, some people do it that way, some people do it that way, some people do it that way. These deviations are sometimes significant, and we can see patterns about a person by how they deviate from the form itself. And also general patterns will occur, like in terms of how you want to do the form or don't want to do the form, or make it shorter or longer. General patterns are revealed as well as specific ones within a form. So form practice for me personally has been very useful. Traditional Japanese martial arts, very big on form practice. Certain types of yoga like Iyengar yoga, learning to be disciplined, learning to not just do what the hell I want, and seeing my patterns exposed through those forms and building very specific ways of being. So like the EYP poses, for example, very specific ways of being are built through embodied yoga principles. Okay, freedom practices on the other hand, and notice if you kind of like that word or don't like that word, freedom or process is another way we sometimes call them. You're following the body, so you're listening by definition and following the body. You're going with what is, you're not imposing with the mind, it's from the bottom up. There's that feeling out. The benefit of this is the wisdom of the body can come out. You're going to explore, it's going to be creative, it can release things. Releasing would be another way of looking at freedom. Yeah, there's a real beauty to that practice. It can develop expressiveness. You know, for me, having done lots of Japanese martial arts, I started to go to 5 rhythms. It's an interesting example actually, because there's a form to it, but there's a freedom within it. That freedom of moving and just doing what the hell I wanted and following the body was really, really helpful for me. Yeah, really, really helpful to sort of undo some knots that were in there. I often get really good insights and intuition and creativity when I go dancing, yeah. Free-form martial arts as well, very, very practical actually, being able to really listen and respond in a creative, spontaneous way, which in Japanese martial arts is considered advanced. And say Systema, it's done much earlier in the martial art of Systema, Russian martial art. But it's very effective because you're actually responding to the reality of what is, as opposed to imposing a shape over the top. Also, it can be completely original. You know, something new can completely come out of it, as opposed to doing the same old thing you've already done. It's kind of politically, we're looking at like liberal rather than conservative. People will have, interestingly, a personal preference, political preference, and a cultural preference to one of these. So if you're like German conservative, you've done lots of martial arts and you're an earthy person, well, you know, you're probably going to like form, all right? Whereas if you're, I don't know, from Northern California and you've done lots of freeform dance and you're a very airy person, you're probably not. So notice your preference for one of these two or the other. Don't make either of them wrong, because they're both very helpful. Okay, disadvantages of freedom then. The disadvantages is you wallow in your own shit. The disadvantages is if you confuse deep intuition for habit, you never get to the full range. Like I see people in dance just doing the same old thing, yeah? And it's not, sometimes they're sort of impersonating someone else, and it's not real freedom practice. It's not a real bottom-up practice. It's just like a habit, or let's say scratching an itch, you know? And I'd say there's something a bit deeper possible. You also might not ever expose patterns. I've seen people just never go to a particular place through following the body, and doing a form practice where you say do 4 elements, they go, oh shit, there's a real range here. Maybe they were just exploring a part of that range. Yeah, the main one though is not developing discipline. So often when we've had conscious dancers in EFC, for example, we'll see that they sometimes lack the rigor and discipline of, say, the martial artists. The ability to just say, you know what, I don't feel like this now, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, the danger of the martial artists is they push themselves too hard, or they override that feeling. Yeah, So are you someone that likes to go with the flow, or are you someone that's like, no, I will impose my will upon myself and the world? Both useful, two sides of embodied practice. On EFC, we don't make either wrong. Most courses you'll hear will make one of these bad, yeah, because of the personal leanings, cultural leanings, etc. Worth including both, worth knowing where you might lean towards your practice, your culture, your personality, and balancing that out a little bit. So form and freedom, a key consideration, and I'd say a key consideration of picking a practice as well if you're a EFC student.